All right, so we are at 12:02, so I'm going to get started. I have quite a few things to say to you in the outset here about who we are at Vancity. So I'm going to start actually just by introducing myself. My name is Krista Lowen, and I'm an associate in the Community Investment Department at Vancity Credit Union. And we'd like to acknowledge that Vancity does business on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish and Kwakwakwa peoples. And we just like to acknowledge that these nations have been custodians of our lands and waters since time immemorial. And we'd like to pay our respects to the elders past, present, and future before beginning any of our content today. So first, we'd like to thank all of you for joining us in this interactive session where we'll hear from you about what are the challenges that you are facing in this sector. So we would like to start by getting a sense of who is in the virtual room. So we are going to practice something that we're going to be doing in the breakout groups called the waterfall. Some of you may know about this, some of you might not. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask everybody to use the chat and to enter your name, and don't do it just yet, but enter your name, where you're from, and if possible, if you have an organization that you're linked to. So, but don't press enter until I say go. And then when I say go, everyone will hit enter and we'll see the waterfall of introductions in the chat. So at this point, I'm gonna get everyone to get ready, enter your information, but don't press enter yet. I'll give you a couple of seconds to put in your information. As I said, your name, please, where you're from. I know that there's people from around the world participating in Seaweed Days, and that's super exciting. And if you have an organization that you're linked to as well, put that in. And I'm going to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, lovely, lovely. Great to see people coming in here. Folks from Victoria, Rory from Victoria, from Toronto, some of my colleagues from Vancity. Tassis, wonderful. I've been there, beautiful community. Great, great to see all of you. Alex from Farm Credit. Awesome. Great. So if you haven't had a chance to put in your name in the chat, please do so. And we're also going to do one other thing before we get started, and we're going to do a poll. So we'd like to get a sense of, where you're at in terms of the seaweed sector, what stage you're at. And so Linda, if you don't mind pulling up that poll for us, please. Great. And so, yeah, what stage are you at in the seaweed farming or processing sector? Are you curious about the industry, definitely planning to start a farm or enter the sector, already operating a seaweed farm, currently operating aquaculture, looking to diversify with seaweed, interested in processing for food product, already processing, or interested in processing non-human consumption product? So it looks like most people are in the top 2. And, we really didn't know who was going to be in the room today. So we wanted to make sure that we had all of the different options here, but it's good to know that, so these are the results. So it looks like we don't have anybody here that's really working in the processing side of things, and that's really good to know. So definitely, most people definitely planning to start a farm or enter the sector, and other folks that are curious about the industry. So thank you all so much for being here today. And I'm sure whatever stage you're at, you have insights into what this sector looks like, what some of the challenges and opportunities might be. And we look forward to hearing more from you later on in the breakout sessions. So I'm going to now introduce us as Vancity. So Vancity is a financial cooperative, and we are owned by our members, and therefore we exist to serve the needs of the communities where our members live and work. At 550,000 members, we are Canada's largest community credit union. And what we do is we leverage all of our assets to create a better world. And this is why we believe we are a financial force for change. So a lot of people ask us, what makes Vancity different from other banks? And I think that one of the key differentiators for Vancity is our commitments to building a clean and fair world. So our vision is a resilient economy that works for everyone and aligns people, planet, and prosperity. So we have our commitments our first one is net zero by 2040. So our ambition is to make Vancity net zero by 2040 across all of our mortgages and loans. So that means that carbon that's emitted from anything we finance will be eliminated or significantly reduced, with any remaining emissions being brought to net zero. And our second one here is around financing an equitable climate transition. So we will focus our work in financial and social inclusion to provide banking and other solutions to help people who are affected by the climate emergency, as well as those seeking support in transitioning to cleaner and more sustainable living. So we're also committed to investing in a better future by only offering responsible investment options that can demonstrate the integrity of their environmental, social, and corporate governance screening and stewardship process. And we are committed to being transparent and accountable. And so this means that we will be encouraging change within the financial services sector more broadly, and accurately measuring and openly reporting how our own actions are improving the well-being of people, communities, and the environment. And then finally, we'll walk the talk in all that we do. And what this means is that we're going to live our values in our daily decision-making in order to serve the diverse needs of our members, staff, and our communities. So another key differentiator for Vancity is our shared success model. So Vancity shares 30% of our profits between members and our communities. So what we do is we make investments in the form of grants into key sectors that align with our values, including environmental sustainability, social justice and financial inclusion, cooperative business development, and meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. So in 2020, we shared $13.9 million with our members and our communities. And we also have a unique product called our Enviro Visa Card, where 5% of Vancity profits go to the Enviro Fund program. The Enviro Fund is designed to provide grants to environmental initiatives in our communities. And currently we're using these grants to create low carbon communities by providing organizations and initiatives that help people and businesses to reduce their environmental footprint and to live lighter on this earth. So since 1990, we've shared $11 million from the Enviro Fund into our communities, and we're really, really proud of that. So you might be wondering, why does Vancity care about seaweed? So part of our role in community investment is really to identify opportunities in our communities to advance social and environmental justice. So my focus personally in my work is on food systems and environmental sustainability. And I've really been keeping an eye on key trends in these sectors. So last year, I was really noticing the work of Cascadia and other seaweed businesses locally and around the world, and started following the journey. And I'm sure, like many of you, I went down the seaweed rabbit hole, and I learned so much about the amazing opportunities that this sector presents that really aligns so well with our values at Vancity. So I'm going to share with you some of the key opportunities that we see at Vancity. So first, we recognize that coastal First Nations have been harvesting seaweed since time immemorial. And the development of this sector presents opportunities for these nations to derive economic benefits from cultivating and harvesting seaweed in their traditional waters. As part of our commitment to reconciliation, advancing economic opportunities for Indigenous communities is one of our top priorities. And seaweed, as you know, I'm sure all of you probably know at this point, presents significant opportunity for carbon sequestration, ecosystem services, and the general health of our oceans that give us life. So we see this sector providing nature-based climate solutions that are aligned with our goal of creating low carbon communities. And of course, we recognize that seaweed is part of a resilient local food system. Along the value chain, there is opportunities for farmers, processors, distributors, restaurants, and so on to leverage this plant-based and highly nutritious seaweed to help address food insecurity while also creating economic opportunities for people across the sector. So this is just some of the reasons why we care about this sector. And what we can do is we can leverage both shared success and Enviro Fund to make investments that will support the growth and development of this sector, supporting entrepreneurs, but also supporting sector development at large. So this is why we wanted to be a sponsor of Seaweed Days. We see Seaweed Days as so much more than just an event. We have seen that this festival is building capacity of entrepreneurs, like many of you probably here today, to enter this sector and be successful. And it's also building out the consumer markets and getting people interested in seaweed as a food product, but also with many other uses that we have learned about this week. So what can we expect for the remainder of the day today? So we're going to be going into facilitated breakout rooms until 12:40. So it looks like we're just on time here, so that's looking really good. And then we're going to come back into the main room, and the facilitators here from Vancity are going to be reporting back on what they heard in each of their breakout rooms. And then we're going to spend the last 10 minutes just kind of blue sky thinking around what some solutions might be. And so we look forward to those conversations. And so just wanted to also introduce to you the facilitators today. So I've already introduced myself. We've also got my colleague Kylie, who is a specialist in member and stakeholder engagement at Vancity. Grateful to have her here today. And also Michelle Bonner is a community investment portfolio manager, specifically supporting the environmental portfolio. And Rowana Haggith is our, some of you may have met her online yesterday in our event. She is a community business account manager. And so each of us are going to be facilitating the breakout rooms today. And so Kylie, how are things going in separating the breakout rooms there?
We are ready to go. We're going to be going into 3 breakout rooms.
Into 3 breakout rooms. Okay. And then who is going to be facilitating each room?
So Krista will be in room 1, Michelle will be in room 2, and then myself and Rowana will be in room 3.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. So Kylie's going to be managing the breakout rooms and pulling us back out of there at 12:40. Yeah, so we look forward to seeing you all in that room, and we'll see you there. Welcome back, everybody. And you're welcome to keep your cameras on if you like, and if you want to go into the gallery view, we can see each other if you'd like to. And we're also going to welcome your comments here as well. So I hope that you all had some good conversations in your breakout groups. And so, as I said before, we're going to have our teams kind of present back on some of what we heard. So I don't know if Kylie and Rowana, if you wanted to go first on just sharing a bit of what were some of the challenges that you heard in your group today.
Yeah, thanks, Krista. Yeah, so a lot of the folks in our group are pretty new to the sector, just kind of thinking about entering in the process of starting their business plans. So a lot of our challenges were framed around sort of getting funding, recognizing that there are costs to even understanding the feasibility of a business in this sector, and how to kind of go about doing that. We also had some challenges around like what to include in a business plan, how to kind of, what's the cheapest way to kind of trial different things, in what order do I need to have these things done in order to get financing. So a lot of our conversation kind of focused around that. Rowana, was there anything else that really stood out for you?
No, I think that covers it. It was, a lot of just about, writing a plan and how can I get financing?
Okay, now that's great. Michelle, do you want to share some of the insights that came from your group?
Yeah, happy to. So similarly, I think I think most of the folks on the call are looking into getting involved and learning about the market. So sort of the top three, I would say, is the need for access to more detailed information. So there's a sentiment that there's a lot of general information out there about the potential for this sector, and so just kind of blue sky potential, but a real desire for more concrete information about the market. What does it take to get into it? Along the supply chain, who's processing, what types of seaweed are in demand, that kind of thing. So just some desire from some much more concrete information. And then similar, it sounds like, to Kylie and Rowana, wanting to really understand what are the costs to enter, you know, the business startup costs. What would it mean if you're starting from scratch?
Right.
And then uncertainty of success. And there was a question that came up around insurance, you know, similar to land-based agriculture. Is there some kind of insurance available? What if your crop, you know, doesn't work out the first time around, and you've invested all this time and effort and money?
Right.
And then access to other parts of the supply chain. And then we started to bump into some pretty, I thought, interesting solutions, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, I'd say too that my group definitely got into some solutions, which I'm sure we could probably share some of the things that we thought of came up. But yeah, some of the high level kind of challenges, you know, so thinking about site selection and finding the right spot for your seaweed farm, I think was something that came up. But then also looking at predicting the outputs and there was a mention too around, you know, the role that Cascadia is playing in really helping to understand a baseline for what is possible in terms of yields that then can kind of inform, you know, other folks' business plans going forward as to what they can expect based on different types of seaweed and what those outputs might look like. So we also talked about issues of obtaining tenure, which I think is something that we've heard quite a bit throughout this time together with Seaweed Days. Mentioning too around, you know, the growing pains of a new sector and just getting a sense of, you know, what are the opportunities in the sector, but also around regulating the sector and how, you know, the seaweed sector is often regulated similar to other aquaculture like shellfish, but really just saying that that's likely not the right approach. But then also saying that reinventing the wheel for regulating a new sector such as this can really be quite messy. And Alex from Farm Credit Canada was mentioning how messy that's been in the cannabis industry as a new and emerging industry. So I think those things were yeah, some of the key pieces that came up here. So yes, great. And so just wondering if anybody, you know, we'd love to hear from you as well, if there's any relating on these topics of challenges that kind of came up, if you'd like to share any solutions that kind of come to mind for you. And as I mentioned too, you know, we're really trying to get a sense of how we can collectively try to address some of these challenges. And if there's a role that Vancity might be able to play in supporting that, we'd love to hear from you.
I was thinking about a co-op model for small-scale seaweed farmers. I'm just wondering if there's any financial advantage from a landing point of view.
Brian, thank you so much for bringing up co-ops as a financial co-op. Whenever we hear people talk about co-ops, we get a little excited. And I don't know, Ron, I feel like you might be best suited to talk to answer that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as Vancity, as a financial cooperative ourselves, we follow cooperative values and principles, and one of them is co-ops helping co-ops. So as a cooperative, we always want to support other co-ops starting up. So obviously when I think about our values as a credit union, as a co-op, supporting other co-ops is very, very important to us. So obviously we will lend to all kinds of structures that our borrowers may present to us, including cooperatives. And yes, when we see a cooperative, we understand how they work, we understand their governance, we understand sort of what makes them a little bit different, which not all financial institutions do. So we understand them, we're comfortable with them. And of course we want to support them in the way that we can as a cooperative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Roanna. And something I'd add to that as well is if this is something that's of interest to folks on this call, we do have in our community investment department, one of our colleagues who specializes in co-ops and really supports co-op development in our communities. And we also partner with an organization called the BC Cooperative Association. And this association has been running what they call the Co-op Now Boot Camp. And so they run this several times a year where let's say, 3 or 4 of you on this call are interested in starting a co-op and really looking to, collate supply chains and, achieve economies of scale and whatnot. And you want to explore what that might look like for you. There's actually a boot camp that they have offering, I believe it's twice a year, where you can get more information on that and really see if that's the right direction for you. So if anybody is interested in co-op and whatnot, you can feel free to reach out to me, and I can always connect you with some of these folks that can help in that development. And I'll put my email at the end of this as well. Co-ops helping co-ops. Yeah, Brian, thanks so much for bringing that up. Anyone else have any other thoughts around solutions to some of the challenges that we're facing here?
I don't want to put pressure on anybody, but the Pacific Seaweed Growers Association was mentioned as an important hub and place from which newcomers to the sector, but also folks already involved in the sector can learn from each other. There's this idea of, rather than everybody doing the same research over and over again, there can be some shared learnings and shared resources there. And folks from my group, feel free to chime in if I'm not quite capturing that.
Hi, Michelle. Yeah, I think that you nailed it. My name's Jordan. I work with the Pacific Seaweed Growers, and yeah, we really want to be a place where people can get that kind of information. So we're in our early stages, but definitely follow us because we're hoping to be able to provide some sort of a platform for hopeful growers.
Great, Jordan. Hi, it's nice to meet you. Yeah, I do hope that we'll be able to follow up from this conversation and go deeper into what that might look like and how Vancity might be able to support that capacity of your organization to then support all of the other entrepreneurs in this sector. So yeah, thanks so much for the work that you're doing and look forward to further conversations there. I have something that came up in our group that I thought was really interesting around sharing the story of seaweed and the social and environmental impacts that it has in our communities, and really just wanting there to be kind of a upswelling of understanding of the potential of this sector so that these messages can get to all various levels of government. And so that was part of a challenge that was brought up today, was looking at the necessary involvement of local governments, particularly including First Nation governments, and then municipal governments and then so far and so forth. But yeah, just looking at the length of time that that it takes to go through licensing and permitting process, and that there is often, First Nations consultation at all these various different levels of government. And so that puts a lot of pressure and time constraints onto these First Nation communities, and really draws out the process. And so just, a solution was really around like, what role might Vancity or other organizations be able to play in order to get the message out there about the potential of this sector and why there should be investments at various levels of government. There is a question in here from Brian. Does Vancity have a network with Indigenous stakeholders that are looking for partnership? Do we network with Indigenous stakeholders? I'd say that, we have relationships with many First Nations communities along the coast. And I'd say, I don't know that I can really speak super well to that. We have a colleague in our community investment department who specifically works in Indigenous partnerships. And I think the only thing that I could really say to that is, yes, we're always open and to pursue partnership with Indigenous communities, but just recognize that we want to do that in a really authentic and intentional way, and really grounded in relationship and building trust, and just recognizing that those relationships take time to build, and it's not something to rush into. And so the short answer is yes, always open to partnership, but just recognizing that we want to go at the pace of those First Nations communities in whatever direction they want to go, and just really empowering them in their own agency. Okay, Mike, from my perspective, look at the area in which you want to put a farm, then meet with band manager or economic development of that First Nation community, and local works best. Yeah, thanks so much, Mike. Yeah.
I'd love to hear from folks if they found a forum like this helpful to you, to have just a space to chat and share concerns and go through challenges. Maybe if folks just want to comment in the chat or raise their hand if they do think that this was a helpful forum for them, or if there are ways that this type of forum could be changed to be more helpful, we would love to hear that feedback as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Kylie. And in the meantime, Brian, great. In the meantime, I'm just going to share this last slide. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I'm just going to share this last slide so you have my information here. And if you could just capture the chat there for me, Kylie, that would be great. But yeah, so just wanted to say thank you so much for your time today and for all of your contributions. And, we've captured as best as we can. And as we said before, this is really going to inform how Vancity will continue to work in this sector. And so if you are interested in anything related to the things that we've talked about today, whether that's, accounts at Vancity, what it's like to be a member, financing for your seaweed farm or other types of financing, socially responsible investing, any ideas that you might have around sector development, co-op development, also really cool to hear about that as well. You can feel free to reach out to me. I've left my email here on the screen. And if there's anything else, any other comments you want to make, feel free to make them in the chat as we kind of close out our time together. And thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, Vancity.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.